Well, joining us now from Washington is Behnam Taleblu, Senior Fellow at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. And Behnam, thank you for joining us. Certainly Iran, that's what Israel wants to talk about with the administration. Some reports that the debate over whether to remove the IRGC, the Revolutionary Guard Corps, from the terror list is still a matter of discussion, debate in Washington and within the Biden administration. That could be a key whether the Iran deal is revived. Where do you see this happening? Do you think the Biden administration has made up its mind on this?
Well, it's a pleasure to be with you again. And based on the number of weeks that have factored into this latest pause in indirect nuclear diplomacy between the U.S. and Iran through the P5+1, the other 5 permanent members of the Security Council plus Germany and Vienna, it seems like, yes, the Biden administration, at least in the short term, based on reports, based on leaks, based on things that have come out, understand that there would be a great political cost to actually going about delisting a terrorist organization that still has the capability and intent to engage in terror and has the blood of Americans and U.S. partners in the region on its hands. So the way the Biden administration has recently been acting seems to understand that. However, its still overzealous commitment for a nuclear deal may over time outshadow that. And what Iran is hoping on is to use its expanding nuclear facts on the ground, plus the idea of Europeans shuttling back and forth between the U.S. and Iran to try to spook Washington into finding some other way to offer premature or excess sanctions relief to midwife and return to less than 2015 version of this nuclear deal.
Right. You're referencing Enrico Mora, the EU official who's been going back and forth from Europe to Tehran. There is another side of this, though. Reports today in the Israeli media that the U.S. will participate in a large-scale aerial drill later this month. And part of that, for the first time, the U.S. taking part in aerial refueling of planes, something that's being interpreted that possibly of the U.S. joining in on a potential military strike or assisting Israel in a military strike on Iran. Do you see that, or do you see maybe this is the other side, the Biden administration trying to spook Tehran into making some compromises?
Well, listen, Washington needs to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. Any only approach, meaning any approach that is sanctions only or diplomacy only or military only, is bound to fail. I think that the time-tested challenge here of the nuclear problem, the regional security threat, the domestic threat, all of the various facets of the Iranian threat that the world has been dealing with for the past 4 decades that emanate from the Islamic Republic require creativity. So in my view, this is a good first step. The U.S. is signaling commitment to continue to work with its partners on all fronts to sharpen the military capabilities, to increase the lethality of the U.S. and U.S. partner deterrence in the region against Iran. But in my view, at present, this is still overshadowed by the U.S. desire for a deal almost at any cost with Tehran. So it's the right step, and hopefully it continues.
Now, of course, there has been some speculation of the role that the Ukraine war has been playing on either distracting the Biden administration from making a deal, or making it more complicated for Russia to sign off. If we were to see some kind of resolution or winding down of the Ukraine war, how do you think that would factor in maybe the fate of the Iran deal?
Well, given the fact that the Ukraine war has started as a war of choice by Putin, Putin is actually looking to use the Iran issue to basically bust Ukraine-related sanctions. There's a lot that Tehran, which has been trying to circumvent and bust and get around 4 decades of U.S., UN, and European and other multilateral sanctions for quite a while. So there's a lot of experience that Iran, I'm sure, would be willing to give to its Russian partner there. But on the military front and on the nuclear front, Russia stands to make quite a bit of money off of Iran in the short to medium term. So that's why I think they actually do want a deal regardless of the status of the war. I think ultimately there was a comment by Gantz a little while ago that talked about the need for preemption. I think Washington would be wise to listen to that, given the fact that the mere threat of sanctions was insufficient to deter Putin, and thus far the mere threat of a plan B has been insufficient to deter Khamenei.
Right, and you certainly, as you say, Russia would love to resume that trade, full trade with Iran if some deal was reached and those international sanctions were lifted. Behnam Ben Taleblu, thank you for joining us again from
Washington.
Thank you.